Well, thank you to all of you for coming along for our In Conversation session with Julissa. Doesn't she look amazing, right?
Thank you.
It's very hot. She was hanging out in Topshop and stuff yesterday, so she picked up some rather lovely bits and pieces. Okay, I'm going to explain to you how this session is going to work. I'm going to have a bit of a conversation, obviously, with Julissa, and then for the final 20 minutes, half an hour of the session, it's about you guys coming up with some wonderful questions for Julissa. And it's all about honesty, I think, today. And I know there are students from all over the college, so hoping for a wide range of questions in regards to, obviously, Julissa as a brand and the sorts of things that she's been up to in the last few years. But Julissa, I'm going to talk through your career from where it started, obviously, to where it is now, and why you've made decisions that you've made, and perhaps where it is that you want to go on to in the future. And your break came doing Coca-Cola.
Yes, a long time ago.
A long time ago. Was that quite a strategic decision for you? Did you know from an early age exactly what it was that you wanted to do?
Well, I have 3 older brothers, and I think they never gave me enough attention. So I always was trying to entertain them and wanted to play, and they never included me. You know how boys are. So I just kind of always did my own thing, and growing up really fell in love with TV personalities, particularly this woman by the name of Daisy Fuentes. I don't know if you guys are familiar with her, but she's really a Latina who has inspired me along with many, many others. But she was the first Latina host ever to be on MTV. And that to me spoke volumes because...
And then you were then to go on to repeat that because you were the first Latina presenter of 106 and Park, weren't you?
Yes, on BET years later. And it was kind of a full circle moment for me also because I ended up doing a commercial with Daisy Fuentes at one point. So that was really exciting. But I was referencing the fact that growing up with 3 older brothers and, you know, them not really including me gave me a lot of just energy to play and put all that out there. And I really fell in love with the arts. I think growing up in New York City influenced that. Obviously Broadway, you guys have theater here, so you know, West End and so on and so forth. But that really, really inspired me, my upbringing, my urban setting. I'm from Queens, New York, so you really got a taste of going into the city and the big lights and, you know, seeing like, wow, maybe one day I can do this. You think like that as a kid.
And did, when you're thinking about the sort of things that you wanted to do with your career, did the fact that you are Latina, did you see that as perhaps a drawback to where you could get to in life? Is that how it works in the States, do you think?
Well, when you have a goal and when you're trying to achieve it, you don't really think about those kind of things. You don't even, and that's like the last thing on your mind. You're just so goal orientated. You're like, okay, this is what I want. What do I need to do? And then when you start achieving or accomplishing certain things and people tell you you can't do certain things because of your background is when you take notice of it. But you never say, well, this is gonna hold me back because of where I'm from. I never thought that way. And doing Coca-Cola, to circle back and answer your question, that was one of the first opportunities I ever got, and I was 14 going on 15, and they were Coca-Cola ads, and they were all over New York City, on New York City buses. Mind you, I'm still riding the bus at that age. So literally, I'll never forget seeing my face on the bus as I'm waiting for the bus, and I'm like... So I got on the bus, and people, as I'm walking on the bus, they're looking at me like, wait a minute. So it was a surreal moment for sure. And I think things just kind of snowballed from there. And one of the other opportunities, one of my biggest opportunities actually, that even ended up getting me into the hosting space and TV personality space was, okay, I'll give you the real story. So I am Dominican. I was born in Santo Domingo, which is the Dominican Republic, the capital. And we tend to have big families as Latinas and Latinos. I don't know if you guys know that, but one day my mom says that we're going to a cousin of mine's Sweet 16. Didn't even know who this cousin was. That tends to happen when you're Latina and have a big family.
Don't worry, it happens when you're Jamaican too.
Okay, so you know, from the Caribbean. So I was like, okay. So I go, and another cousin of mine is there again. I didn't know he was my cousin. So he ends up telling me that he's already in the arts and he's acting, and he gives me the info to his manager, and he's like, I don't know if she'll call you. And this was like an older lady working out of Long Island, New York, which, you know, is another part of the boroughs. And she was just out of her little home, sending these people that she was representing, her talent, on different castings. So I just sent her my pictures and just was like, okay, I guess nothing. I heard from her 2 weeks later, and I went in and I auditioned for her. I had to read a commercial. It was like a few lines. She was like, okay, thank you for coming. Again, the big, okay, so now what? It felt like when you go on a job interview and they're like, don't call us, we'll call you type of thing. Because I didn't hear from her for until like almost a month later. And she sent me on my very first commercial audition, which was a Wendy's commercial. I don't know if you guys have Wendy's.
They don't have Wendy's, but it's a bit like Burger King or what have you,
McDonald's. It's a fast food chain in the United States. And I booked that commercial. And it was the first time that I really got that boost of confidence, because it was different than modeling and the Coca-Cola ads and those kind of things. And I just fell in love with being on set and being, you know, talent and being in front of the camera and learning so much. So that sort of kicked off a lot of things for me.
And because you've done a lot of films and stuff as well, haven't you?
I have dabbled in some films. I actually did a film a few years ago called Make It Happen. It was a dance movie, and it was in theaters here in the UK. And I didn't even get to see it in theaters because they didn't show it in theaters in the US. I know, it was crazy. It was like in theaters all over the world except in the US. But it came out on DVD in the US.
And that's where you met Adrienne, wasn't it? And that who you then had the reality TV show with.
Yes, I met Adrienne Bailon, who's my best friend. I met her not on Make It Happen. I met her on another film that I did. It was an MTV film. She was starring in it along with Sierra, who's a singer. I don't know if you guys are familiar with her. But so they were in the film, and then I just came on as a walk-on and had a role playing her cousin. And we literally built a friendship instantly. We, as girls, started comparing our cellulite, and was like, it was literally such a real moment because we were on set for so long. And it was somebody that I could relate to in the business. She was young, she was ambitious, she was Latina, literally similar story to mine. So we just kind of kicked off our friendship, and that was almost 10 years ago. So we've been friends now for quite a few.
And for those of you who haven't seen clips on YouTube or what have you, the reality TV show, the reality TV show was called Empire Girls, Julissa and Adrienne. And I was reading the blurb about it, and it said they try and find love and happiness by the time they turn 30. So that was the strap line for this whole reality TV show. I'll ask you if you found love a little bit later on. But what was that experience
no ring
like?
on my finger.
Well, that means that she didn't. But yeah, what was that like for you, being followed around by cameras all the time and actually opening up your heart to everybody?
Well, at first it was very overwhelming, and more so because the fact that my family was also going to be on camera, and they never really even know how I end up on TV. Like, my mom's like, Julie, you're so pretty, you can be on TV. She thinks, literally, she thinks that that's all it takes. I'm like, no, lady, that's not how it works. You actually have to work for this. So she got a chance to see firsthand, along with my family, the ins and outs of the business, getting to shoot. And the first day, I literally had a breakdown. Like, it was so overwhelming and stressful, and it was like a surreal moment because my family was on TV also. But then when I had that breakdown, and it was fine.
It was fine. It was fine. But you also, I remember when we went to dinner on Wednesday, and you mentioned that it was quite uncomfortable for you when the producers, without telling you, got one of your ex-boyfriends to turn up, and you had to film a scene with him. And that was quite uncomfortable for you, though, wasn't it?
Well, when you sign up to do a reality series like what we did for the Style Network, it's a lot. You know, you're really revealing yourself, and I never was that vulnerable before, and sort of always had people just see me as a host, and whether if it was on BET or Access Hollywood, which is an entertainment show in the US, and just all the other things that I did before, nothing was as real in your face as doing series. So it was something that I really, really had read first. But then once I started forget being around and situations like that happen. And once you do the ugly cry on TV, it's like, okay, now I can just do anything, like literally bawling and boo-hooing. So once you go through that, you can pretty much do anything. But Adrian and I, we really wanted to just give a positive spin on women of color being on TV and being in reality series. I don't know how many U.S. reality series you guys get to see.
Quite a few.
Okay,
Yes.
but you know, a lot of them sometimes showcase women not in the best or flattering light, and even men. They want a lot of arguing, a lot of fighting, a lot of these things that I think.
We're sort of thinking of more of the real housewives sort of
Yes,
situations and stuff.
or Love and Hip Hop, or
Yeah.
Basketball Wives, those kind of shows. And listen, they're my guilty pleasures. I watch them, so I'm definitely not knocking them. But it was an opportunity for Adrian and I to show a different side of women of color in this business, really being goal-oriented and really trying to achieve something. So we were really mindful of a couple things, of being positive and really trying to show this business and how much dedication and hard work it takes without sacrificing some of your upbringing and the things that were instilled in us growing up. And then we didn't want to be stereotypical either. We didn't want to be, okay, two Spanish girls, two Latinas on TV eating rice and beans every day.
Yeah.
That's not even what we do in life. We're modern urban Latinas that
So would you say
cross
then,
the board.
is that your brand in that case, and the sort of what you want to give out to people, whether they be watching you do interviews on the red carpet or watch you in the reality TV show? Is that what you decided your brand is going to be? You're a modern Latina, not the rice and beans kind of girl. You just want people to see what
I
you're
love
like.
my rice and beans. Don't get it wrong. Don't get that twisted. But I say that in the sense that I didn't want it to be so stereotypical.
For example.
Yeah, what happens in Hollywood a lot of the times, even with movies where they want to portray an urban setting or, you know, a background of whatever particular family, culture, they tend to do it in a way sometimes where it can be very niche and very stereotypical. And they do it because they don't really know. They didn't live it. They didn't, you know, I have meetings
It happens
in
in
and
the
out
UK
in LA.
too, don't worry about that.
See, I don't know how much, because I feel like here, I really what I've loved so far being here is the diversity, and I feel like this city has embraced other cultures. I mean, it reminds me a lot of New York in that sense, but you know, in Hollywood, it's just very different. Like I take meetings in and out. Oh, hello? I take meetings in and out all day, and sometimes you're really speaking to these executives who are sometimes 2 and 3 times your age, don't know anything about your background, really, and are trying to tell you how to be whatever. You know what I mean? How to be a Latina, and it's like, you can't tell me.
With that kind of situation, when someone's telling you, well, this is what these ladies are like, and this is what you guys do, and this is what I want you to do. How are you able to maintain that relationship with the producer and not get annoyed, but also educate them on what it's like to just be you?
Right. Well, having a great team also helps, which is something that I've learned really still to this day. I'm still you're like constantly always switching up. And it really takes a team and a machine, because whether it's publicists and stylists and, you know, managers, a great lawyer, a great agent. I mean, these are crucial things that really you have to think about. And I didn't even know that, because my first opportunity as a host was for Telemundo and Mundos, which is a Latin channel in the US. And I was so green, is what they say in the business, meaning new, didn't really know anything. I was 18, about to turn 19, got this opportunity because I auditioned in New York and went in there thinking that I was a host. I didn't know one thing about hosting, but I went in with the most energy that I could, and my intentions were pure. And life is a lot about intentions and what you give out there in the universe and how it circles back to you. So my intentions were, I'm just gonna go in there with the intention of being the best and doing what I think a great host does. So that's what I did, and I ended up booking the job, and it took me to Miami which is where we were shooting, and I didn't know a thing, and I was getting ready to host a live 2-hour show 5 days a week, and only had literally 2 weeks of rehearsal. So just envision that for a second. It's a lot. And I was a sponge on set every single day. Whether you think it's the smallest opportunity, you never know where that opportunity is gonna go. So you just have to be present, aware, and that's what I was.
I guess here we'd call that blagging. You basically blagged your way into doing that particular job without letting everyone know that perhaps you hadn't done something like that before, but you will go in there confident and you'll make them believe that you have done this before, you're a consummate professional. I mean, is that what you're like is that your personality in that case? You won't let things hold you back. You'll just learn what you need to do and you'll go and do it.
Well, my skin has definitely become a lot thicker in this business because you're gonna get so many no's before you get that one yes, whether you're in front of the camera, behind the camera, no matter what, production side. I mean, it is literally a hustle and a grind every day, and it never stops. I'm sure a lot of you guys see major, huge celebrities, superstars. You know, I've interviewed Jennifer Lopez, who's a huge, multi-hyphenate superstar, Tom Cruise, Denzel Washington, Halle Berry, you name it. And if you really look at their career, till this day, they're still hustling. They're still on their grind because it never ends, whether it's to stay relevant, whether it's to continue to build your empire. No matter what it is, it just never stops. And you never know who you're going to meet along the way, and making sure that you're conscious of, like I said, I was a sponge early on and just wanted to absorb as much information, and not just, absorb information on, what it takes to be a host. No, I wanted to know all aspects of the business, because in this business, you never know what your next thing is going to be. You can end up wanting to produce one day. You can end up wanting to, run your own production company or casting director. I mean, there's so many facets to this business. Because people just think, well, I want to be in front of the camera. I want to be a star. And you never know. You can be a star and shine in other ways, being a director, just so many other lanes in this business.
And talking of lanes, let's talk about the international market in terms of your brand, because you're not just here during your little tour that you're doing. You're also going to be doing some stuff in South Africa. How important is that international aspect of your brand?
Well, I didn't even realize how much it was of an importance until I started getting the tweets and the social media feedback, and just the feedback from fans early on when the shows that I was shooting in the US would start showing in other countries. You never think that big. This is the thing, like when you're on the grind and when you really want to achieve something, you never think until you achieve it, and then you set a new goal. So it's very important, I feel, to definitely share with you guys that not only the hustling never stops, but setting new goals for yourself is such an essential thing, because not only for human revolution and to evolve, but for yourself, it's really something that I've gathered along the way, because you just get to a point where you're like, well, I've achieved this, and I didn't even think I can do that. So what else, You think even bigger and bigger and bigger. And of course, with my faith, I just always think, God has a bigger plan. And when you get those no's, sorry, now I'm getting emotional. All of a sudden, which is weird. But, it's a long road.
Well, do you know what? I don't think it's unsurprising that you would get emotional in situations such as this, because when you think about where it is that you've come from and being bullied by your brothers and what have you.
Yeah, and Queens, New York, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but it's kind of like South London, where you're from.
Yeah.
A very urban setting where you certainly don't ever see people that you know on TV. I mean, my mom thought I made it when I was on Telemundo. I was on a Spanish channel. It's like, oh, Julie, when you buying me a house? You made it. My dad wanted a car, my brothers, I wanted chains and jewelry. I was like, first of all, you're not rappers. And second of all, I don't even have money like that, because that's another thing. You learn early on when you start making money. There's a thing, I don't know how the taxes work here, but in the States, there's a thing called 1099, which is an independent tax earner. So you don't get checks that have already taken the tax out. You have to pay those taxes back. So At one point in my career, I literally looked up one day and got a letter in the mail from the good old IRS, which are the people that want those taxes. And it said, "Hi, Julissa Bermudez, you owe us $55,000 in back taxes." That's when I looked at my pockets, emptied them out, and realized there's so many aspects to this business. Maintaining your finances, knowing what to do with them, not buying your brother chains, not buying your parents' houses out the gate, because your friends and people you grew up with start thinking, wow, you're on TV, you must be making boatloads of money. And that's not the case.
So do you think it's important then for people when they're on their way up to have mentors who can explain things like that
I wish
to you?
I had that.
Okay.
Again, where I'm from, nobody was ever on TV. My mom lived vicariously through me because she really wanted to be growing up. And my grandmother just never thought that this business was, first of all, something that was attainable and you can actually reach being on TV was as a goal. And also, you know, there was a lot of stigma attached to the business. And back in the day when my mom was growing up, you know, my grandmother just probably thought it was drugs and rock and roll and all that stuff. And then my dad, who's a cab driver, New York City cab driver, retired now, but I feel like that's where I really get the hustle mentality from. But, you know, what can he tell me about being a host or doing any of the stuff that I've done so far? So you really just, you gather things from your upbringing and your background and you apply it to the things that you want in life. And things that you think are so bad and detrimental at the time, like I said, growing up in an urban setting, you don't think that big, you know? But one thing you do think of when you start achieving any level of success and you ever get in an uncomfortable position in this business, which I have been many a times, whether it's being at Hollywood parties and drugs being passed around and things that I never saw growing up in your face like that you see in movies and, you know, all these things.
How do you deal with that, though, by the way? How do you deal with being in that kind of setting?
I rely on my upbringing, honestly. Thank God I had parents that were very real and told me right from wrong, and I always tried to maintain that. And I think that's part of my brand. I'm sure a lot of people will be like, well, you know, you've been in this business now 10 years, because it just happened, which is so crazy to think. But like I said, I've been in this business 10 years, and maybe a lot of you may know me, may not know me, but, you know, that's part of the hustle also. Just because you put in years of work doesn't necessarily mean, and you're not owed anything. People don't need to even care about what you do at all. It's your contribution to what you're bringing into this business. And being centered for me and being morally right. I love to sleep great at night. I've never compromised any of my upbringing, morals, anything to get ahead and to be in this business, because in Hollywood they do have what's called the casting couch, where, you know, women
Has that happened to you in terms of things being offered? As you said, you've said no, but
I've never been on the couch.
But has,
never been on the
you
couch.
know, has someone offered to lay you on the couch before?
Plenty of times there's been moments where it's been uncomfortable, and whether it's a producer promising you the world and to be the star of his film, if you know, were to go on a date and do whatever you think is what he wants out of you, you know, while he's selling you this dream, you're like, wait a minute, something ain't right. That comes at a price that I don't think I'm willing to pay. So it's all a matter of what you really, really want out of life and how you want to get there. Because there's many routes, you know, in the media, especially these days. I feel like it's not like back in the day where you really saw some, like the stars I mentioned earlier, you really, really saw how they have genuine, authentic talent. Nowadays, you can be a celebrity, whether it's off of blogging, social media, all kinds of things, sex tapes, you know. These are things that back in the day never existed. So the times have certainly changed, but then that's where you sit back and say, okay, well, I can go and leak naked pictures if I wanted to.
Have you ever been tempted? Have you? I'm not. No, because. You know, because
well, I have after working out 7 days a week or doing yoga and be like, man, I got some abs. Let me take a selfie. I might leave this. No, I'm just kidding.
Because I think it must have a certain level of annoyance to think that you work incredibly hard to get to where you've gotten to, and then someone else can just pop up one morning and leak a sex tape themselves or a 10-second clip or something, and all of a sudden they're achieving the things that you've worked really hard to achieve. There's got to be a certain level of annoyance that's got to come into that.
It's more frustration for sure. Yes, there's annoyance in that, but again, you think about, okay, well, how long is that gonna last? Temporary? Like, what is your legacy? Is it to be that? Is it to leave behind where you're saying, okay, yeah, I was famous for that and blah, 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 that's how I got on? Or is it, no, I achieved the fame and success because I put in the hard work, blood, sweat, and tears gave me where I'm at today, not because I laid on my back for it on any couch or on a TV screen, moaning and groaning or whatever. But, again, that's another thing that you sort of struggle with in this business, because that's where the frustration lies. You're like, wow, I've worked so hard. But I don't knock anybody's hustle by any means. Like, listen, do you. If that works for you, different strokes for different folks, right? So you just have to figure out how you can still make an impact in a world that is continuing to go that route.
Talking of the world as a whole, because as you said, you've realised what your international reach is now because of social media. What happens next with you, do you think? Are we going to see another series of the reality show, for example? Are we going to see you in more films? Are we going to see you, popping up doing more international work?
Well, I would love to do international work, a lot more international work. I get invited to do a lot of work in other countries, and whether it's hosting grand openings for things. I'm also a brand ambassador for a shoe company called Steve Madden. These are Steve Madden.
Oh, incredibly cool shoes, actually. They are amazing.
These are actually a collaboration with Steve Madden and Keisha Cole, who's a singer. And so I really want to be able to expand my brand in other ways.
And what is it that you want to do?
Internationally, I would love to be here and bring my Latin flavor to London and be on TV
you're in the
here.
right, you're the right environment for it, actually, because there's a massive Latin community
Yay,
in this
shout out to all
area.
my Latinos.
In Elephant and Castle.
Pop into their shopping centre. There are some great Latin American restaurants and stuff in there. So you're in a very good location in terms of stuff like that.
I would love to. I mean, being here actually is it's a deja vu, surreal moment for me, because I've envisioned it so much. Like, I always joke around endlessly and say that my credit card has been to London, but I've never been to London because I order so much stuff online, from whether it's ASOS or Browns or, different boutiques that you guys have out here in the UK. So being physically here is like amazing and really
what could we do for you? If I had a crystal ball and I could say, Julissa, I will give you whatever you want in London, what would be the thing that you would quite like to do work-wise, or who you'd quite like to collaborate with or meet up with, for example?
I would love to collaborate with you.
Well, that was the right answer.
The same goal that I have even for the US, which is to eventually have a show where I can really speak to not just young women, but more so young women, because I feel like it's a moment right now, whether it's media pushing the wrong ideas of beauty and things that you feel like you need to fit into. It's all BS and it's all wrong. You need to fit into wherever it fits in your heart.
But that's got to be hard for you, though, right? I mean, you look amazing. You clearly work out, and the dress looks fabulous on you and what have you. But as a woman, you are under a lot of pressure with stuff like that.
Actually, that was something that we tackled a little bit on Empire Girls, because growing up, I literally used to get made fun of so much because I was 6 o'clock, straight up and down, no curves at all. And now with age, I've gotten this like womanly body, and to embrace those curves was a little bit of a challenge, because something I never had to worry about before, having a booty and being on camera where all of a sudden I have these curves. So it was something that I definitely had to work through. But we have women that have broken so many molds for us, whether it's Beyonce and her bootylicious ways, or J-Lo, or Salma Hayek. I can go on and on. The list can go on forever. But yeah, it's image-wise, it's something that you definitely
have to be conscious of.
Well, it'd be good for you to sort of tackle all those things, as you said, within your show when you get it, not if, when you get your show. I mean, in terms of like, you know, you have a good reach online with social media. Is that something that you would consider doing, is doing an online show, for example? So
For sure.
all of your fans across the world will actually be able to tune in and watch. Are you in tune with how big you can become online?
I never really saw that as a platform before. And to be quite honest with you, I'm not the best with technology. It took me
lots of technology students and social media students
well,
in
help
here
a sister
who can
out.
give you a hand. That'll be fine.
Yeah, I just honestly, like I said, I was raised in a very traditional home, and just not good with technology and not good with like sort of moving with the times at sometimes. So I did join Twitter eventually, obviously, and then Instagram. I was even late on that. She's way better with that stuff. But yeah, it's a new platform. I'm actually doing some stuff now online for a channel called Uno Dos Tres, which is Google and YouTube merged and have different online channels. And it's a countdown show called Certified Viral. And basically, me and my co-host, DJ Eddie One, who's a big DJ in the States, we count down viral clips that are getting a lot of buzz. But it's still not a format. See, before you can get to do what you really, really, really want to do, you kind of have to do other things in this business to kind of circle back and then be in a position where you can call the shots. You got to work your butt off before you can start doing that. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm still in the process of growing my brand and making it bigger, but it takes a lot of work because, like I mentioned earlier, you know, I haven't made certain decisions to sacrifice things that I didn't think were necessary to get ahead. So I'm okay with taking the longer road, if that makes sense, as opposed to the fast track and then crashing and burning. I rather, if it takes me a lot longer and I can get to where I want to get to, then that's what I'll do.
Brilliant. Okay, we're going
to.
And
I love that you guys have, because I'm always like, I'm just going to work my butt off, and then everybody else can catch up, and they'll get it. They'll eventually get it. Because that's the thing, when you're doing and you're putting in the work and you feel like you're not getting the amount of whatever it is, fame, success, whatever, but you know you're onto something, don't stop, because at the end of the day, there's going to be somebody, Celine, that's going to that you're going to catch their eye, or that's going to recognize that and say, you know what? She's onto something. So you never know who you're going to touch. You never know. And that was one thing that I learned with Empire Girls, that time when my producers, ended up having me run into my ex-fiance, and that's where the ugly cry came in and the boohooing. You didn't, at the time I was like so pissed that even happened. But then after it aired and women from all over, even men, were like, oh my God, I can't believe you were brave enough to face your ex-fiance like that, and, kept it real and talked about certain things. At the time, I thought it was the worst. But knowing that I could inspire and people took something away from that made it very worth my while. And being vulnerable in that situation, I didn't even think whether it was, that or rubbing cellulite cream every night and showing my nightly, beauty regimen on TV. Things that...
No cellulite whatsoever.
Oh, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. These thighs can look like an English muffin sometimes. Just all kinds of nooks and crannies, if you know what I mean.
Even in 2 days and a reference in muffins. I love that. That's brilliant. Okay, we're going to open it up to the floor for about 20 minutes. So who's going to give our first question?
Who's going to be brave?
Yeah. Who's going to get up and be the first one? Oh, come on. Oh, there we go. Just over there. Do we have a microphone for...
Hello.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Is this working?
I think so.
Okay. I just wanted to ask.
This one's louder.
Okay. Hi, my name is Mariam. I'm a third-year advertising student.
Hi, Mariam.
Hi. I just wanted to ask, like, when you're meeting all these awesome celebrities, you still get starstruck? Like, oh my God, that's Beyonce. You?
Absolutely. Oh
Yeah?
Well, she's the nicest, by the way. She's like Miss Congeniality. So sweet. But of course you do, because ultimately you're a fan of theirs. But then you have to think they're a human being just like you. They
do a lot of things just like you. So you think about the things that they've achieved and you take that and you're like, okay, that's inspiring. Now let me pull it together and ask what I need to ask.
Cool. That was my
Yes.
question. Thank you.
For sure. Oh, cool.
Hiya.
Growing up, you had like probably loads of friends and everything, but once you got more well known, did you feel like they started to treat you differently, or did they see you in a new kind of image?
For sure. See, the road is tough in that sense because not everybody's going to understand the goal and the mission that you're on. You know what I mean? People just want the bright lights and the access that you have. So they don't understand that you have worked to a certain level to achieve that, and they just want to be around and either leech on or, they don't get it. So it comes with a lot of access once you start gaining success and being in front of the camera and on TV. So you really have to be conscious about the circle that you're in, because then you start realizing that they are a representation of you and an extension of you. So if you're rolling around and your entourage is not right, people look at that, and that speaks volumes. And it can make and break a lot of situations, for sure. I mean, even with my older brothers, before, like I said, I used to beg them to want to hang out with me and let me play, and now they call me like, hey, Julie, where's the hottest party? Like, the way the tables have turned is awesome.
Hello. Oh,
Hi.
quite loud. Hello. Yeah, I'm here. I'm Kuldeep. I'm one of the lecturers on advertising. But yeah.
Very important.
I'm a micro celebrity in my own little circle. No, just a quick question about this whole idea of misogyny in the industry and this female body image and body dysmorphia. And can we all know the issues within the industry, and the actual fact that the casting couch still exists today, which is like pretty disgusting, is like how do you see the industry changing? Like, how do you see real women being able to represent real women's issues and not being under pressure to kind of become super women?
Right.
Because all I see is just women have to do twice as much as men.
That is still very true. As far as body image and all that, those things were very real for me when I decided to move from New York City to LA, and literally looked around at every casting that I would go to and I'd be like, dang, these girls' legs, they don't touch. Mine do. What the heck? So I didn't realize, like, wow, they're really on a mission here to just be that thin, and the image of whatever it is that the media pushes, so much down your throat. I think they always say it takes a village to raise a child, right? I think it takes definitely a lot more than just a village to start changing the perception and the way you embrace real women. If we were to praise and applaud more real women and more real looking women, then I think that's the beginning of the change. It's just really tough. I think women just have to continue to stand up for themselves. Men have to give them their place also.
Yep. I mean,
Which now they call in the US a thigh gap.
Yeah, we call it the same thing.
Okay.
But do you ever feel, do you know what, I actually really want to get a really good film, and unless I look in a certain way, it's not going to happen. There's got to be a part of you that feel tempted to, I don't know, perhaps eat less, or only have half a meal a day,
Right.
or to have some kind of surgery. As women, as determined and intelligent and confident as we
Yes.
got to be a moment where you feel, maybe I should become that way?
For sure, there's definitely a level of insecurity because a lot of it comes from the scrutiny that you get. When you first start off, nobody ever taught me who's teaching you growing up how to walk a red carpet? Nobody, unless you have famous parents. So you learn things along the way, but it takes you looking a hot mess a couple times before you start picking up on things and saying, okay, maybe I could do this, maybe I could do that. But from the aspect of diet and all those things, I'm not saying that you have to go and just let yourself go and not take a certain level of accountability on your looks. Not by any means, because at the end of the day, when you're on set for hours and hours and you're gonna feel sluggish, you're gonna feel a lot of things if you're just consuming trash. You know what I mean? Whatever you consume is gonna reflect. So there is a level of health that needs to be focused and involved when you are in front of the camera, because you want to look healthy, you want to look glowing, and you know, if you're just, like I said, filling up with trash, that's not going to happen. So that's how I look at it. I don't look at it as from a perspective of I need to fit in those jeans and have a thigh gap. No way. I need to be healthy and be able to be on set performing my best, whether it's, you know, cutting back on a few carbs because they make me sluggish or whatever it is, you know what I mean? So I look at it more from that point of view, not so much from the point of view of, and being strong, you know, when you are working on yourself, it's a certain confidence that comes across. And when you walk in a room and you're competing against 100 women for one job, yeah, you want to have that confidence. You want to feel healthy. You want to feel strong. You want to walk in your best because you want to give your best self. But I have a love-hate relationship with acting anyway. Yeah, I really, really do. It's like I want to do it at some moments. And, of course, growing up in New York City, that was actually the goal that I had, was I wanted to be on Broadway so badly. The, you know, Great White Way, that was what I saw growing up, going to Times Square. But then that started changing when I first booked my first hosting job, and then started seeing that girls were coming up to me and were like, oh my God, you remind me of a cousin of mine or a friend of mine. And growing up, I didn't have that. You know, Jennifer Lopez and Daisy Fuentes and all these women that came along that started giving me that inspiration and saying like, wow, they're on TV and they look like me. Maybe I could do this. Yeah, it's important. Yeah, totally. I love it.
Hello? Yeah. Is it on? Hi, Julissa.
Hi.
So you sing, dance, act, model, present. Which
I
one
don't
of
know
the-
where this singing thing came from. Probably because in the movie Make It Happen, I had to do some singing.
So you can sing then?
Shaky.
Sort of?
It's
Ish?
a little shaky-bakey.
Okay. Which one of
Yeah.
those would you say you prefer and why?
I love presenting and speaking to people. I love it. I think I thrive off of it. I love people's energy. I think being able to, if I can just touch one person, that's huge for me. You know what I mean? Because that's what happened to me growing up and seeing the women that I mentioned. So I think that's really what I love, presenting and being able to touch people in all facets of the business of what I end up doing. You know, of course, those opportunities are great, and that's why I've never steered away from them, the acting, the singing, all those things. But yeah, presenting and being able to speak to people and touch them is really what I love.
Sorry.
We'll get to you right after.
Hiya. Just now you're talking about how everyone in the industry is constantly, quote, hustling. But so where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years?
Still hustling.
But what
For
do
sure.
you like? What do you ultimately aim for? So in 10 years, I want to see myself as Oprah, as Beyonce. What do you see?
For sure. Well, Oprah is a huge influence and is the pinnacle. She is someone who's been able to touch the world and many, many, many times over. So I would love to be able to do something like that with the work that I do. So, but yeah, I continue to, I really, really hope to continue to do that, touch everybody in the work that I do, but also continue to build my brand in a positive way and really spread the message. That's a big part of my brand, and it's, you know, being authentic, being genuine, and your intentions being pure when you go and being real so that people can relate to you. Because internationally especially, and one of the reasons why I think film stars are so big is because you're not always going to be able to speak the language that people understand internationally. I mean, if you do, that's like, you're a genius, you know? So I think people can always sense realness and authenticity and genuine feelings. So yeah, I want to continue, hopefully in 5 to 10 years, continue to still be in front of the camera, working and have my own show and building my brand, for sure.
Got it.
It is.
Thank you. My name is Roman. My question is really simple. Throughout your whole career, in some toughest moments, what was your biggest source of inspiration and motivation? What kept you on?
That's a great one. I'd have to say my parents, for sure, because, you know, they moved to the U.S. and didn't have much and hustled their way, had real jobs. My mom was a school teacher for kids with special needs and disabilities. And my dad being a New York City cab driver and owning his own business at one point and having that and failing and still continuing to get up on his feet. And, you know, those are real moments. And you see, because this is the thing also. It's like in this business, you always get put in a role model position or on a pedestal. And that comes with a lot of pressure. And sometimes people don't realize you're a human being also, and you're going to make mistakes, and you're not going to always do the quote-unquote right thing. So I always try to say that if you can be influenced by not just celebrities, because I feel like, it's a big cop-out. Like people, like nowadays, the media and folks want to blame, you know, rap music or this, that, or the other, entertainment or violent movies. No, it's what you're teaching in your homes. You know what I mean? That's really going to resonate with your child and with your upbringing, because those are the things that you always go back to and relate to when you're in your toughest moments. So I definitely have done that and gone to the place where I'm like, okay, well, let me just think of ultimately the goal, and no matter how tough it is, you really have to always think to yourself like, dang, things really do happen for a reason. Because in your hardest moments, and you think, I really, really wanted that job, like, oh, that would have just changed my whole career. Because this is how you think. You're like, oh, if I would have booked that job. But maybe you weren't ready. The universe did not give you that for a reason. And it's really, really hard to look at it that way when you're in that moment, because obviously you're devastated and it's hurtful. But yeah, even with Empire Girls, you know, so exciting. I mean, that was a vision that I had, to then getting a meeting, to then calling up Adrian and saying, oh my God, I have a meeting at the Style Network and they want this idea, and can you fly to New York? And she's like, no way, girl. I mean, can you fly from New York to LA? She's like, no way. And I'm like, get your ass on a plane. Excuse my language. But she came and, you know, we turned it into a real thing. And now, you know, being on hold for a second season for so long, and then the network folding, because now in the States, Style Network went from being Style to now Esquire, which is a gentleman's network now. You know, that you can get a sense of feeling like it's failure. But no, it's not, because look at where I'm at today, speaking to you guys.
Hey, my name
Hi.
is Rachel. I'm a first-year public
Hi,
relations
Rachel.
student.
I have a cousin named Rachel.
I just wanted to ask you how you felt, or what challenges you felt you faced as a minority in the industry, and if you feel that you have an extra responsibility being a minority woman in the industry.
Absolutely. Great question. Yes, there is a lot of pressure because I have what's called an accent. You guys have it too. But obviously you're in a country where everybody has it. So in the United States, being the big melting pot that it is, and them wanting to always represent across the board, it seems as though they always want you to be the watered down version of whatever you are. They'll say, they'll send out what's called a breakdown to your agents, your managers, saying, we want this, we want a Latina, da-da-da-da. Then you go, and they don't want it. They want a Latina. They want somebody who is, has a Spanish last name, but doesn't have an accent and is very neutral and doesn't have any flavor. It's like, well, that's not really how we are. We come with some sassiness. We come with what I call sazon, which is like seasoning. You know, we come with these things. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's part of us. So if you really want it, this is how you have to have it, not the watered down version, which at moments, I'm not saying, because there was moments, for example, when I got asked to host the finale of The Hills for MTV, which was a series in the United States. I don't know if you guys got it here, but it was a certain demographic, you know, The Hills and the OC and that whole lifestyle that they put out, right? What am I doing, a Latina from Queens, New York, hosting The Hills finale? That doesn't mean that I'm gonna be up there, you know, all of a sudden, because I'm hosting The Hills, like, oh my God, I'm Julissa, welcome to The Hills finale. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing that. I'm not saying that you can't modify, because I do modify and edit. And even when I'm on tour with Steve Madden as a brand ambassador, I'm going to cities all across the US where they don't even know what a Spanish Dominican girl looks like. But I have to be able to touch them and relate. And that's where the realness and the authenticity and what you're giving off is what people are going to feed off of. So I think, of course, you modify, but you bring your own flavor in that modification, if you understand. Do you know what I mean?
Would you ever have elocution lessons to get rid of the slightly Spanish tones that you have?
I have. I even showed that on Empire Girls and the feedback and how, you know, really that is something that I struggle with. But again, I'm willing to not take it away because it's a part of me and who I am, and it's part of my sazon. But thank you.
Sewing it all over London.
Nice.
Lovely phrase. Do you have another question? Oh, yes, there's lots. Let's take one from the back. The lady in there.
And then we'll go to her.
If you give the microphone to that lady there, and she'll run all the way over to the back. No, stay where you are. She's coming this side. It'll be like a ride at Alton Towers with you girls going round and round in circles.
Hi.
Hi.
So what advice would you give to girls who want to aspire to be a presenter or to do some hosting, acting, all that?
Got it. I would say to start wherever you can, whether it's an internship. And like I said earlier, even though the goal, obviously, if the goal is for you to get in front of the camera, that doesn't mean you can't start on the production side and seeing the ins and outs of what it takes to get in front of the camera, or interning with a casting director and seeing the things and the people that are being hired and the things that are working. You know what I mean? So you got to start somewhere. If it's a local theater, if you want to be an actor, if it's taking classes, no matter what it is, start somewhere. And now you guys even have the bigger advantage of being able to start in your very own home if you wanted to, because of social media. Nowadays, you can literally put yourself out there. So I would definitely say start wherever you can and be nice to everybody, because you never know who that person you're interning for, what their next job is going to be. And people remember you. Oh my God, how they remember you in this business. Whether you were nice, whether you were mean, whether you were difficult, whether you were a diva, whether you were, it's like just, they remember you. And a lot of the times, like a good percentage of the time, people want to hire who they enjoy being around, because you're going to be around them for, if you're on a film, up to 6 months, if it takes that long to shoot that film. Day in, day out. 18-hour days, if that's what it requires. So nobody wants to be around people that are miserable to be around. You know what I mean?
We've got time for...
Yeah. Oh, we had to get to her. I saw her hand go up.
Hiya, my name's Sis.
Hi,
Sizaway.
Sis.
Well, you kind of just sort of answered my question, but I wanted to know though, as a person who aspires to be a presenter and also a person who wants to help the world kind of thing, how do you manage to keep your humility? Because some of the people that I do aspire to, they just make this sort of job seem undesirable because they are like, oh my gosh, I'm a diva, like, you know, you look at me kind of thing. And so how do you manage to keep your humility in this industry?
It goes back to the circle and the people that are around you. If you have a lot of people that are just blowing up your head and telling you how great you are all day long, you lose a sense of a connection with the real world. And the real world is always going to tell you where you stand. So that's how I continue to stay humble, because my real world is going back to Queens and visiting my family, or going to the Dominican Republic and visiting my mom, my dad. You know, these are, or my brothers, or my mom calling me up and saying, Julie, why did you wear that outfit? You look crazy. That'll get you humble. You know what I mean? So definitely the people that you have around you, because it's so easy to have a lot of yes men around you and blow your head up all day long and blow steam up your bum all day long. It's true.
Unfortunately, that's the last question. You know that Julissa's going to move around and see some of the work that you guys have been doing in the build-up to this. But I'd like to say thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm not going to stand on this stage. Can you hear me okay? I just want to say a few thank yous, because there's been fantastic work by the students, as Karen said earlier, and also from the staff that we have in the college here. It's the staff and the students that make London College of Communication, and it's events like this that are really important for you. I think everything that's been said today, you can transfer that to any subject that's being studied in this college, and especially, it's advice I've given to students for 100 years, don't be awful. If you are not a nice person to work, as Julissa said, to work with, nobody's going to want to work with you. So I think there's some really good values that have come out today, particularly around your own personal values, your work ethic. That just goes out across any career, whatever you do in the future. So I think it's a really important message. I really want to have many more events like this, because we've got two fantastic role models on the stage here. Charlene is committed to us anyway. So we're going to be seeing a lot more of Charlene. So thank you. Yeah, no, absolutely. And she'll be on the telly tonight as well, of course, as she usually is. But also, I mean, what an amazing opportunity to get Julissa over as well, because, this has been fantastic. It's a great experience. I've been looking at nodding heads, smiling faces. I just think it's great to hear this kind of stuff, and there's going to be a lot more events like this in the college for you all. So a big clap for all the people that have made this happen. So all the technical staff, academics, students. And more importantly, please stand up for our two lovely guests, because it's been absolutely fantastic. And thank you. Thank you.